All right, on this episode of Unlocked, we are going to visit, if you could only plant one food plot, what would it be? And then also, once we get into this topic, there's a million bullet points that we're going to go over of what and why. But you can refer back to Greg's hunt of shortstop as a bullet point as to why we're saying what we're saying in this podcast type style.
Why you're saying what you're saying. Yeah. We may have a different opinion.
You may have a different opinion.
I was going to say, I hate getting put into a box with these questions, so this is certainly for the viewership, so I want to know their feedback on what it is that we're saying. But if, the gun's to the head, what's the favorite food plot, food variety source?
And this comes with, in our consulting business, you work with landowners, and it's just like, you get asked this question all the time when you're at shows, and it's like, if I could only plant one food plot. I've got 40 acres with one 2-acre
give me that
food plot.
silver bullet.
Across a lot of different regions as well, right?
Yeah.
Different states and different growing season conditions. Perennial white clover is very hard to beat.
Oh, you throw in a little perennial red clover, though, too. It's really, that combination. The two is incredible because you're looking at summertime forage. Red clover is amazing, and white clover is kind of going a little dormant. But it peaks up in the sun. And, if we're talking, let's put it in a box. What's your favorite food plot for hunting season? We're not talking about, off-season forage, but what's your favorite food plot for hunting?
Well, this is it's a way more in-depth conversation, right? Because there's so much time and effort that goes into food plots, which means maintenance, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you look at the silver bullet, when you look at everything that you have to do to be successful in the food plot space, I always look at, when I talk to Casey, what's our deer density, right? Because sometimes I love the grains, obviously, but if we have too much, they'll never grow in that section unless you have a huge section.
Too many deer.
There's too many deer.
Right.
And so when you look at deer density, ease of maintenance, which is basically getting it planted, once you get established, then you can do frost seeding and then obviously mow it. In some cases, depending on the deer density, you may not even have to mow it because they'll mow it for you.
There's a lot of different herbicide options.
And let's go into the health side of it. Depending on what clover you want to debate, you're looking at 18 to 22%. That's the highest protein that you can put in front of your herd. And by the way, it's the first thing to green up in the spring, which now you're benefiting the turkeys as well because of the bugs.
Well, most importantly, when you talk about greening up in the spring, it is growing and starting to perk up in March when antlers just start forming.
The timing's perfect.
Soybeans are not putting inches on the antler because they're starting to grow a month and a half after antlers have already started growing.
Exactly.
And the foundation of those antlers is formed in March and early April.
And stress periods is not the beginning of winter, dead of winter. It is the last portion of winter when you don't have the spring green up of the natives yet, but a clover will sprout early. That's when you're packing on pounds, rebuilding the bodies of bucks and also does from late gestation of fawn development, beginning of lactation opportunity. Clover hits that window. Crops do not. They're not planted until late May, early June in some many portions, right? So that overlap doesn't occur and happen, but it does most certainly with clover. And as a manager, we're all most interested in identify and address and have supplemental forages for the regional stress periods in your area. Clover will do that.
And we haven't even talked about rainfall, right? Mm-hmm. Clover can handle a drought better than any other thing that we can put out there.
I would argue that and say alfalfa. It'll handle a drought.
But here's the deal. We've got to pick one. So I'm trying to pick one that's going to cover broad brush of all these concerns that we have as land managers.
Well, what we're saying is, like, if you just say, okay, favorite food plot, and you could say from a drought tolerant, clover probably ranks number 2.
Yes.
But
alfalfa,
you say, okay, late season attraction, winter attraction, it's way down the list.
Yes.
But when you look at all the different bullet points, it ranks at the top or high on the list. So when you put it all in one big picture, you say clover is king.
One thing that I really love about it, I don't think people talk about this a whole lot, is like the conditioning of a deer. Mm-hmm. So because it's readily available at a longer period, the deer start using it earlier. Yeah. When they start using it earlier, they go back to that as a viable food source.
It's habitual.
and they start to formulate that versus annual plot, which appears in August and then disappears in January. You know, that's a small, short window that it's available, and the deer visit it during that time when it's highly palatable, and then it's gone. This is like something that you can constantly refer back to. Like, once it's established, these deer are going to be there. They're going to be there early. They're going to be there middle, and then when it greens back up, they're going to be there again, and it's all throughout the year.
I want to jump on Casey's point really well, because this ties into shortstop. We let him walk through this food plot for 4 years. We let him past him for 4 years in a row. To his point, he was conditioned to come there because of our food source and availability, and he did at a very early age. So he got comfortable.
Yeah,
and it was always there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so once you can create that repeatability when they're 2 and 3 years old, if you let them go, they're going to keep coming back because they know it's there. As long as you keep maintaining it.
Yeah.
To Casey's point, it's that condition, and you get that condition. Now it's going to help you let these deer age because they're going to stay home to that part.
And you're killing that deer when he is 3, 4, and 5 because of that pattern the consistency, right? And you know how to harvest him in the time
He's
frame,
exposing his cards.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's why I love the perennial nature of the clovers. If, let's say, it is hot and dry in the summer time frame, it may go slightly dormant or start to reseed and put its energy in its root system to get through that droughty time frame. But as soon as you get colder temperatures or dews or a little bit of rain, boom, she's perked back up in a very short amount of time frame, and it's coming back from an established root system. And unlike an annual, you may not have enough rain to germinate that seed and to get it started. But if you have clover already established, that, let's say, 0.2 of an inch is making that clover just respond, boom, right there.
Yeah.
And like it's dependable. Let's say.
If it's a year-old clover, and so it's established roots, you planted it in August or September one year, and you've gone through that fall, that winter, that spring, it's gone crazy in the spring, and you hit a drought in the summer, like July and August, but you start getting those morning dews, it's going to perk back up.
Yes.
When you couldn't establish annuals in that drought, the dew is not enough to cause an annual to sprout and grow.
Germinate, no.
And so that's the big comparison when you're looking at drought tolerance, consistency. And I think the best term is, say, your return on your investment is much greater with perennial clover than all other things. And I love standing corn, and I love brassicas.
We haven't even discussed the time and the value of your labor and the work.
Absolutely.
It is the least amount of maintenance plot you can put in the ground.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When you look at, cost of establishment, it may cost you X dollars per acre to plant it, let's say 8 to 15 pounds to the acre, and it costs you $2 to $4 a pound. It's very inexpensive to establish. You compare that to corn or soybeans, they're much more expensive. Oh, yeah. And then if you plant corn or soybeans, you also probably need to have a fall blend in that as well. So that's another additional cost per acre. So you compare those, and it's like, there's no comparison when you look at the price.
Yeah. Overall, as land managers and people that spend a lot of time planting food plots, it's a safety net.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a built-in insurance policy.
It's like, all right, we've just had a terrible fall. We can't get any of our annuals to go on, but we do have our established perennial clover plots that are going to take us through. And if we, push comes to shove, we got a bad year, then we can go to just pure cereal grains in a lot of spots on a late planting, but we're still able to hunt as soon as the season opens because of those perennial clover plots.
I think back to a hunt on public ground that I had years ago. We drew a coveted management hunt tag in the state of Missouri, and this is a spot that would take years to get drawn. And the very first year we put in, we got drawn. And it was like, we're going to this place, and it's amazing. Well, lo and behold, that spring was very wet, so there was no corn or soybeans that got planted. It was a very dry late summer, so they got hit with EHD, and so they didn't have wheat or any of the annuals planted in their food plots. The only spot that was attractive was try to find acorns, and there wasn't a huge acorn crop that year. So it was like, try to find acorn trees. But my brother found one little patch of clover, and the deer were just pouring in there. And he ended up shooting a really nice buck on this weedy, unmaintained, just kind of fall by the wayside clover patch. And it was like, of all the things, we're looking at a field that just had clover, and it was just a great reminder of the fact of like something so simple. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why clover gets overlooked is because
we overcomplicate it.
Absolutely. And that's the main point and takeaway from, I feel like, this video is don't try and overcomplicate things. Just focus on quality and quantity, and clover can accomplish both of that. It's a 9-10 month old crop. If you do have issues with grasses or broadleafs, there's herbicides to handle that, or you can do different mowing throughout the different time frames of the year. You have fertilizers that can be specifically for the P and the K that clover need. Like, you can manage and maintain that crop to allow it to do very good for you. And it's a built-in insurance policy, drought, no drought, good growing conditions for fall annuals, grains, whatever. It's there and it's established, and it's easy and cheap. How can we find anything to replace that?
Yeah, I mean, and if you want to see clover working at its top level, you can head over to the video of Greg harvesting shortstop, and you could see that deer late October utilizing a clover field while checking for does and ultimately run into an arrow.